Hello everybody, welcome. I'm Zodiac. Welcome. So basically, in this tarot card reading, this is going to be for an individual of a Gemini. Gemini is going to go from August 7th to August the 16th of 2025. So basically, in the tarot card reading, I'm going to tell you all that it's going to be how basic it is, how it's going to be very interesting, of how it's going to be in that way. Because this is going to be very interesting. I know that this might enjoy of who it is. This is how it is. The Gemini is basically an air sign, as in Zodiac sign here, and whether it seems to be very interesting, how it's going to be very interesting indeed. This is how it's going to be. So you have to understand what's going on in that way, because you have to know what's going to be, and you're trying to provide what's going on in that way, because that's how it goes, right? So you have to understand the basics of knowing what to do, and you have to, stand clear of what's happening in that way, right? So if you understand what's going on, you have to know about it. You're trying to play by the rules. You're trying to, do exactly what it takes. But the way how this is, you're trying to do exactly how it is, right? So this is the way it goes, and nonetheless, it's very interesting on how it seems to be, and when things to be in that perspective, I know how it is in that way, and you have to, do exactly how you're told to do, because you're trying to be responsible of how you're feeling in that way, right? This is how it goes. But this is seems to be, and this is how it is. So here we go. So basically, in this wonderful reading, you have to understand what's going to happen. The Knight of Pentacles reverse. There's no trust. Like you're not having any trust. I don't know why about that. The King of Wands, it does represent passion. That's how it goes. You might be dealing with another Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. That's how it goes. The Empress is upright, where you're feeling nourishment. That's the way it seems to be, because that's how it kind of ends up being at. It's like, okay, this is how it goes. I'm going to stand clear. I know what works. I know how I can do it. This is the way it seems to be in that way. The Four of Pentacles is upright, because you're basically thinking about money in that way. Because whenever you think about money, you think that everything's going to be all great. But then it's like, how would you do it? How you're going to be authentic about knowing what to do. That's how it goes. The Judgment reverse, you're not taking any action here. There's no action. But the way how this is, you know what it is in that way, because you know what works, what doesn't. But you have to be sincere of what's going on in that way, because there's going to be a very interesting way of how it goes. And the Hierophant reverse, there's no guidance here. I don't know why that you have no guidance, but the way how this is, it's like you're trying to know what's going on in that way, because this is how it seems to be. If you know what's going to be happening, this is the way it works, and you have to know exactly how it is. You're trying to have your own priorities about knowing what to do in that way, right? This is how it seems to be. So I'm going to clarify everything, because there's going to be a lot of tarot cards here in this way, and this is how it seems to be. So let's see what's going on. So I'm going to clarify. I'm going to go from clarify the Judgment all the way to the Knight of Pentacles. Two Pentacles reversed, followed by the Queen of Cups is upright, followed by the Five Pentacles is upright, followed by the Sun card reversed, followed by the Ten of Wands is upright. So there are burdens here. You're in negativity. The Five Pentacles is upright. You're looking for money in that way. The Queen of Cups is upright. There was empathy. There was two sides of the story here. One makes sense. One doesn't make sense. And two Pentacles reversed. You're not balancing, right? This is like unbalanced. I don't know why that you are unbalanced for. Because this is how it seems to be. It's like, why are you feeling unbalanced? Because this is the way it works. Because this is the way it seems to be. Alright, that's how it is. So let's go from the King of Wands all the way to the Four of Pentacles. The Seven of Cups is upright. There's a delusion. The Strength card reversed. You're being scared. The Knight of Pentacles reversed. There's no trust. The Tower is upright. There's transformation. Page of Swords is upright. There's education. Yeah, because you're being educated, right? When everything's transforming, when everything's changing, that's the way it goes. If you're feeling scared, if you're feeling, you don't have trust, there are things that you must learn first in order to do that, because you're trying to figure out why are you doing it, why that things are not going as planned, because that's how it goes. It's like you're trying to imitate of how you're feeling in that way, and you're trying to have your own obligation of knowing what to do. You're trying to figure out what's going on in that way because you know how it is. You're trying to have your own sense control of knowing what to do in that way. You're trying to, get a hold of yourself. You're trying to do exactly what it is. But that's just how it seems to be in that way. What's between this Page of Swords and this Hierophant? The Judgment reverse, you're not taking action. Knight of Swords is upright. There's drama here, and the 5-1 story, there's chaos. Yeah, because it's like you are not forcing yourself because you're trying to figure out what's happening in that way, because you're trying to know what it is in that way, because you're trying to figure out what's going on in that way. You're trying to exactly how it is, because things are trying to be, perplexed, and the way how this is like, why are you trying to do it? Why are you trying to figure this out? Because this is the way it seems to be, That's why you need to understand that the way how this is, you're trying to process what you're doing in that way. It's like, okay, this is the way it happens. I know what to do, but then I have to face it. You have to face it head on. You need to face about what's going on in that way because you know how it is. You're trying to figure out what's going on in this situation, in this winter scenario, because that's how it goes. What's in the middle of this situation, please? The Ten of Swords reverse. There's no conclusions here. There's no conclusions. And when there are no conclusions here, there are things that you need to learn in order to do that, because you have to face your own reality. You have to face about what you're going to get, what you want, what you proceed, because that's how it goes. So let's see what's happening for this. I'm going to clarify this Ten of Swords, but on the left side. Let's see. The Fool is upright, there's change. The Tower reverse, there's no transformation. But the Chariot is upright, there's progress. Alright, so that's how it goes in that way. Alright, so I understand that the way how this is, let's see what's going on. So let's see what's on the opposite side, on the right side. The Judgment reverse, you're not taking action. The High Priest reverse, you're not using your voice. The Sun card reverse, there's negativity. The Death card reverse, there's no endings. Wheel of Fortune reverse, you're having bad luck. Yeah, because the way how this is, it's like you need to have the way how it works in that way. You're trying to set your own story here. You're trying to play by the rules. That's how it goes. So, this is how it seems to be. So let me clarify this Fool card, the Tower, and the Chariot. The Emperor reverse, there's no structure. The Hermit reverse, there's no solitude. Magician reverse, there's no skill. The Hangman reverse, there's no restrictions. The Strength reverse, there's no bravery. Yeah, because you're being scared, right? Because this is the way it seems to be. It's like, why are you doing it? Why are you trying to converse of how it seems to be? So let me clarify this Strength card. Wheel of Fortune reverse, you're having bad luck. The Justice is like you're not telling the truth. The Temperance reverse, there's no healing. The World reverse, there's incompletion. Exactly. The Chariot reverse, there's no progress. The Emperor's reverse, there's no nourishment. The Fool reverse, there's no change. The Hierophant reverse, there's no guidance. The Moon reverse, there's misrotations. The High Priest reverse, there's no inner voice. The Judgment reverse, you're not taking action. The Star reverse, there's no inspiration. The Devil reverse, there's no obsessions. But the Sun card reverse, there's negativity. Yeah, because beyond about that way, it's like, why are you kind of processing about what's going on, right? So it's like, why are you kind of facing of how it is? So let me clarify this Sun card here. The Two of Cups reverse, there's no relationships or friendships. The Ten of Swords reverse, there's no resilience. The King of Cups reverse, there's no support. Three of Cups reverse, there's no celebration. 10 of Wands reverse, there's no burdens. The Knight of Cups reverse, there's no romance. The 5 of Cups reverse, there's no grief. The King of Swords reverse, there's no knowledge. 10 of Swords reverse, there's no conclusions. The 9 of Swords reverse, there's no trauma. Queen of Cups reverse, there's no empathy. Yeah, because you're not telling a story here. You're not facing what you're facing in that way, because you're trying to know what it is in that way. You're trying to do exactly what you're told to do, because you're trying to be responsible how you're feeling in that way. this is the way it seems to be. What's happening between the Judgment all the way to the Wheel of Fortune? Ace of Swords, there's a misunderstanding. The Six of Swords, there's no movement. The Four of Wands, there's no celebration. The Two of Wands, there's no planning. The Knight of Wands, there's no immaturity. The Emperor, there's no structure. The Star of Yours, there's no inspiration. The Chariot of Yours, there's no progress. The Fool of Yours, there's no change. The Magician of Yours, there's no skill. The Emperor of Yours, there's no nourishment. The Temperance of Yours, there's no healing. The Tower of Yours, the World of Yours, there's no completion. The Hierophant of Yours, you're not using your guidance. The Hermit of Yours, there's no solitude. Judgment of Yours, there's no action. The Moon of Yours, there's mismeditations. The Wheel of Fortune of Yours, you're having bad luck. The Knight of Wands of Yours, there's no fear. Five of Swords of Yours, there's no conflict. Eight of Wands of Yours, there's no anxiety. Three of Wands of Yours, there's no communication. And the Knight of Swords of Yours, there's no drama. So, the way how this is, you're trying to interact with what works, what doesn't. You're trying to perceive what you're doing in that way. So, let me clarify with this Queen of Cups here. The Lovers of Yours, there's no decisions. The Strength of Yours, there's no bravery. Yeah, because you're being scared. Right? Because you don't know what to do. You're trying to converse. But the way how this is. The Death card is up right there as endings. Yeah, because you're trying to remember what Scorpio is saying. Or maybe you're trying to interact with the Scorpio. Maybe about a water sign. Maybe. Because this is how it goes, Gemini. You need to pay attention to what you're going to be feeling in the way how this is. You're trying to interact with how you're doing in that way. You're trying to compose what you're doing in that way. Because you know what works, you know what doesn't. But you know what I mean. This is the way how it goes. What's between this Knight of Wands here? Knight of Swords. Wheel of Fortune is upright, you're having good luck. Justice, you're telling the truth. The Emperor is upright, you want structure. Alright, that's how it goes. What's the middle? The Moon reverse, there's misrotations. The Hermit's upright, there's solitude. Yeah, because you're looking for a soulmate, right? You could be looking for a soulmate. Maybe you're in hermit mode. Maybe you don't know what to do. There are things you must learn first in order to do that. Because you're trying to figure out the way how this is. You're trying to interact of how it is in that way, because you're trying to show your companionship about how it is. So let me see what's going on with this Death card here. The Hand of Yours, there's no restrictions. The Star is upright, there's inspiration. The Emperor's Yours, there's no nourishment. The Tower is upright, there's transformation. Yeah, because everything's changing, right? So you know what's going to be happening in that way. What's happening with this Emperor card? The Devil is upright, you're making decisions. Strike on reverse, you're feeling scared, right? Because that's how it goes. Because you're trying to figure out why are you doing it, why you keep, having these ways about what's going on, right? It's like you're being haunted, but you don't know what in that way. What's happening with this Hermit card? The Fool is upright, yeah, because there is change. Because the way how this is like, why are you doing it? But you're trying to, see what's going on in that way. You're trying to know what's going on from the in and out of the situation. Because you know what's true, you know what doesn't, but you know what I mean, right? This is the way it goes in that way. Because you're trying to be featured, or you're trying to be what you're going to get what you want. That's how it goes. So let's see what's going on. Let me clarify this Tower card and this Star. Now once yours, there's no fear. Alright, so you're having no fear. What's in the middle? The Strength card reverse, there's no bravery. Alright, what's between the Lovers and the Strength card? The Two of Pentacles over, yeah, because you're balancing two things at once, right? So it's like you're feeling like you're unbalanced, but then you're balanced at the same time, right? So you know what, Gemini, you need to pay attention on what you're going through, because this is how it is. So let's see what's going on. Let me clarify this Nine of Wands here. The Chariot of Yours, there's no progress. The Four of Pentacles reverse, there's no money that you're doing. Two of Swords, you know which direction you're going to take. Queen of Wands is already there's charisma. Yeah, because that's how it goes, right? So you know what it is in that way because you know how it seems to be. Everything has to be all corrected because you know how it is. You're trying to not fool yourself. You're not trying to, decide what you're doing, but this is how it goes. You're trying to proceed with caution because you know how it is. You're trying to know how you're feeling in that way because this is could be a bold move maybe because you're trying to figure out what's going on. So you could be dealing with another Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, as the way it goes, right? So you're trying to figure out who you're acting with, which zodiac sign is interacting with you, but the way how this is, you know what it is in that way. What's this Strength card about? The Nine of Cups is that right? There's fulfillment. The Ten of Swords card, there's burdens or conclusions. And the Page of Cups here is there's no loyalty. But the Knight of Swords, there's drama. Yeah, and the way how this is. So when you have your own conclusions, when you're trying to have drama in this situation, it's like, why do you keep doing it? Why? But there are lots of possibilities that are out in that situation, and you know what it is in that way. You're trying to figure out what's going on in that way because you're trying to proceed with caution. You're trying to have ability from the first perspective or the wrong perspective, whatever it is, right? You're trying to figure out how it is. You're trying to from the start, middle, and end at that situation, right? You're trying to have your own scenario about how it goes in that way because you know what it seems to be. You know what's going to be happening in that way. You're trying to know exactly what it is, and that's how it is. What's between these two pentacles about? The King of Wands is upright, followed with the Four of Wands is upright, followed by the Ace of Swords is upright. Yeah, so you're having a understanding about the way how this is, and the Four of Wands does represent you might be going to a wedding, maybe you're not, that's how it goes. And you have to believe that when things to be in a good perspective, you know what it is. You're trying to know about, okay, this seems to be very interesting, I know what to do, but then this is how it seems to be. This is like almost like a how it goes, right? So you have to understand what's happening in that way. So what's between the Queen of Wands here? The Four of Pentacles is upright. What's in the middle? King of Wands is upright. Okay, what's in the right side? The Devil reverse. Okay, so let's see what's going on with this Four of Pentacles here. Page of Cups reverse, there's no loyalty. Two of Swords reverse, you already know which path you're going to take. And then once reverse, there's no immaturity. But the High Priestess upright is you're using your inner voice. Yeah, because that's how it goes. If you're using your inner voice, you know how it is. You know exactly what seems to be in that way because you're going with the flow. When you go with the flow, you know what it is in that way because you get what you want in that way. What's happening with King of Wands here? Nine of Wands is upright. There's fear. And the Death card reverse, there's no endings here because that's how it goes. So when you have the Nine of Wands, you have fear in that way because you get what you want because this is the way it seems to be in that way because you're trying to be getting told what you do in that way. That's how it goes, right? So you have to understand what it seems to be in that way because that's how it goes. So if you're having fear, you know what it is, but that's how it goes. The Death card reverse, there's no endings here, but the way how this is, you're trying to know what it is in that way. So what's also with this Death card here? The Moon is upright, yeah, because there is misrotations here, so you might be getting affected by the Moon, or you may be getting affected by whatever it is, but you know what it is, right? So you have to try to have your own perspective, knowing what to do in that way, because you know how it is in that way. You're trying to know exactly what you want, what you get, what you desire, because this is the way it seems to be. You know how it is, but then you have to understand that the way how this is, you're trying to get what you want in that way, because you know what it is in that way, right? You have to believe that everything's going to be fine, but then you know how it is in that way. It's trying to, do exactly what you're told to do, but you have to be responsible on how you're doing in that way, Everything has to be all, all satisfying, but you understand that you have to believe about how everything is. That's the way it goes. And when things to be in a perspective, you know how it is from the right or wrong perspective. That's how it goes. What's between this devil card here? Nine of Pentacles here, you're feeling uncomfortable. The Three of Cups, there's celebration, but the Lovers is upright. You're having decisions. Yeah, because you're making your own decisions. You want to celebrate, but the way how it goes is like you're feeling uncomfortable. It's like, why I don't want to feel like this? Why I don't exactly proceed with this? Because this is how it goes. It's like you have to know from your rights, from your perspective, the way how this is. You're trying to know exactly how it is. You're trying to have your own basic needs, your basic wants. You know how it is, but this is the way it seems to be in that way, right? So that's just how it goes. So let's see what the universe is saying. So let's see what's going on from the left side. For once yours, there's no celebration. Alright, what's in the middle? The Three of Pentacles here is there's no excitement. Alright, what's on the right side? The Ten of Pentacles celebrated. So you are thinking about your career. Alright, so what's going on with this Four of Wands here? The Three of Swords celebrated, there's heartbreak, but the Page of Pentacles celebrated, there's prospects. Yeah, because you're being prospect, you know how it goes in that way, because it's like reoccurring of how it goes. If you're having heartbreak, it's like you're feeling sad, you're whimpering, you can't do this anymore, you quit, whatever it is. But then you have to proceed what you're doing in that way. You're trying to versatile how you're doing, or you're trying to have a mentally challenge, whatever it is. But you need to understand that the way how this is, you know what it is in that way. This is how it goes. So you could be dealing with another Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus. You might be dealing with another Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. That's how it goes in that way. Alright? Let's see what's happening with the Three of Pentacles here. The Six of Swords is alright, there's movement. This is Cups here, there's no past. But the Ten of Swords is alright, there's conclusions. Yeah, so when you have movement and when you have conclusions, it's like you're basically saying that you're having a hum and haw, or hum situation, or you're hum and haw, whatever it is, during your situation, and you're trying to say, well, this is going to be incredible, but I don't know what to do, So you have to figure out what's going to be in that way, because you know what it is in that way. You're trying to figure out what it is, because this is not very how intense, but if it was, you know what I'm saying, that's how it goes. You're trying to know how you can be selective or know what to do, but you're trying to understand that, because you have to go with the flow, that's how it goes. What's between this Ten of Pentacles about? Love is separate, you're making decisions. The Hierophant reverse, there's no guidance. The two Wands reverse, there's no planning. The Knight Wands reverse, there's no immaturity. The Taurus reverse, there's no healing. Five Swords reverse, there's no conflict. 10 Wands is alright, there's burdens. Yeah, because the way how this is, you're trying to know exactly what it is in that way, because you're trying to figure out what's going on in this whole entire situation. So when you have making decisions, when you have all these burdens, and the way how this is, you know how it is, because you're playing by the rules. That's how it goes in that way. You know what it is in that way, and you have to give yourself that motivation of knowing what to do. What the universe is saying here. So King Cups separate, yeah, there's empathy. So, the way how this is, you're seeing two sides of the story here. One makes sense, one doesn't make sense, and that's how it goes. But the way how this is, the way how it seems to be in that way, you know what it is, you're trying to go with the flow, you're trying to know about your basic needs, your basic wants, your basic guarantees. But the way how this is, if you use your own word about empathy, two sides of a story here. One makes sense, one doesn't make sense. But you know what it means, Gemini. You need to figure out what's happening in that way, and this is how it goes, right? So you have to go with the flow. You have to pay attention to what you're going to be doing. But that's how it seems to be. That's the way it kind of goes in that way. But you know what I mean, right? So you have to understand that in the way how it goes, and this is seems to be, right? So this is the way it goes. But this is how it goes in that way, and you have to do exactly what it is. You're trying to be responsible of how you're feeling, how the way it goes, how the way it happens. This is the way it seems to be. But this is how it is. But before I let it go, try to pay attention to it, and that's how it goes. But I hope you all like this video. Please give it a like. Please give a comment if you want. But this just seems to be. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day to all, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now. Really thanks, and bye.